It's 8 o'clock. This is the UK Tonight. Coming up, hackers that steal the pictures, names and addresses of young children from a chain of nurseries. The group claims to have the data of 5,000 children who go to kiddo nurseries in and around London, as well as in the United States and India, with a sample reportedly published on the dark web. Also tonight, the taxi driver who drove the Southport attacker to the scene and then waited 50 minutes to call 999 faces the official inquiry. Gary Poland apologised to the victims' families for not doing more, admitting he drove away from the scene, despite children who fled the attack running alongside his car in terror. Plus, are you ready for the Brit Card? We'll be discussing the digital ID that Sir Keir Starmer is set to announce to try and tackle illegal immigration. And Ticketmaster vows to improve transparency in its sales practices following the anger over the Oasis tour. Well, that's come, and much more here on the UK Tonight. Well, we start tonight with those claims that hackers have stolen the pictures, names and addresses of thousands of children from a chain of nurseries. The criminals targeted Kiddo International, which has nurseries in and around London, as well as in the United States and in India. The Metropolitan Police and the Information Commissioner's Office are both investigating, where our education reporter, Anjem Pier-Bakos, joins me now for more details on this. Anjem, you've been following this story since it broke earlier on this afternoon. Talk to us about the scale of this hack.
So we're talking about thousands of children, but also the hackers have told online sort of platforms that they're not just targeting the children, but their families, parents, employees. So there's a massive data breach here that's taking place. And they've been very open about their motivations. They've very clearly stated that their motivations are purely financial, and they've actually called kiddos' nurseries, kiddos' carelessness. And they've said that we've got to this point now because they have not complied. And the group that are responsible are called the Radiant Group, and they've been very, very brazen online and on the platforms for sharing this information.
Yeah, what kind of information did they take? We talked about the names and addresses, but I mean, that information is sensitive enough, but you would imagine readily available. Most people have their addresses online and things like that, but photographs and safeguarding information as well. Talk to me about the kind of information
they've definitely taken photographs, and those have been made available online, but they've also taken what they say is sensitive data. So when you have a school setting or a nursery setting, you would have data such as medical information, for example, or SEND information, special educational need data. All of those things that are incredibly sensitive and incredibly confidential now are possibly in the public domain, which is really quite worrying. And as a parent, I would be absolutely horrified to receive such an email or notification from a school or a nursery setting.
Yeah, well, you've been to one of the nurseries in London today to sort of gauge a bit of reaction from parents. What has their reaction been?
So it was surprisingly calm, and it was still the normal kind of drop-off, pick-up scenario. And when I did speak to some parents, they said that they had been notified by the management of the nursery. They'd had the information relayed to them. I don't think the word cyber attack was used. I think they might have spoken about a data breach and that they were doing whatever they could to alleviate the situation and reassured parents. And parents did seem reassured when I spoke with them.
And in terms of the hackers, they actually released a statement. You touched on some of it there in our opening conversation, but it's worth telling people what they've said about this attack and why they've done it.
They've actually just said that their motivation is entirely financial, and they also said that we've given the organisation multiple opportunities to comply, and we've got to this stage now because the organisation didn't comply. And I just think the irony of just being able to say, well, we've given you as many chances, but the morality here seems to be so misguided, and their open issue with, or they have no issue actually with dealing with sensitive data for children in this way is really quite worrying.
Yeah, it's shocking. Anjem, thank you. Anjem Pier-Bakos there following that story for us here on Sky News. Let's bring in Graham Stewart from the cybersecurity firm Checkpoint, who joins us now. Graham, I just said there to Anjem that I'm shocked that a chain of nurseries has been targeted. Am I a little bit naive in that?
No, I've been involved in cybersecurity for 25 years, and this is the most depressing day, I think, of my job since I've been doing this. I am I've seen hundreds, probably thousands of cyber attacks over the years, and helped companies and organizations recover from them. This is just indefensible. It's an appalling an attack, and it just shows, as your correspondent was talking about, just frankly a lack of ethics and morals, and to go after children's data. Yeah, I'm afraid this is a new low.
Yeah, Graham, we understand that a sample of the data stolen has appeared on the dark web, essentially the hackers saying to the Nursery Group and the wider world, look at what we can do if you don't comply with our ransom demands. In terms of that information, Anjam, our correspondent, has been to Nursery, spoken to parents who at the moment are quite relaxed about it. But some of that data, very personal, photographs of children from their nursery setting on the dark web as well. Should parents be a little bit more concerned?
I think there's two elements to this. So there's the specific concerns around the parents, and they'll be using that presentation of that information as part of their extortion attempt on the Nursery Group. There's another bit to this where they'll have scraped a load of information, and they're claiming up to 8,000 individuals' details. That information gets sold on the dark web for secondary attack, and I'll give you an example of how that works out. Everybody here watching will have had a text message purporting to be from a parcel delivery company, from Amazon, from Disney, saying, oh, your direct debit has failed, you've got a parking notice, you need give HMRC some money. Those secondary attacks come from scrapes of data that have been sold on the dark web for these kind of mass mailings, mass marketing in sort of evil mass marketing attempts. And what they'll do is they'll use that data. So you've got two things going on here. You've got the secondary data, the secondary attacks being used from these data scrapes, and that's bad. But then what you've also got is the indefensible use of children's information to try and extort it from the nursery. And those examples are what they're going to use as a leverage to get the organisation to try and pay up.
Yeah, cyber attacks, I feel like I'm talking about them a lot recently on the news, but it tends to be, bigger companies, whether it's M&S, Jaguar Land Rover, to name just a couple of recent examples. And they are big multinational companies with lots of money. You would imagine, I mean, maybe it's been found not to be the case, but they would have the most robust sort of security system when it comes to information online. A Nursery Group, what kind of protection would they have had? And, what can they do to protect themselves? Because in the grand scheme of companies, they're probably quite small fry, and is protection expensive? So
the way to look at this, we have what we call the magic triangle within cybersecurity, or the golden triangle, which is people, process, technology. So an organisation like Checkpoint and other organisations will supply technology. It's down to the individual organisations how that's deployed and the processes that they use to build their business around it, and then for the people to be trained. And the problem with an organisation that doesn't have a lot of money, that's frankly focused on delivering nursery care, is they'll do the very best that they can with what they have. And there's only so much that you can do if you're an organisation like that. I was in Cardiff last week and talking to the head of the Cyber Resilience Centre there, and he spends his entire time talking to businesses, mostly small businesses, really hammering home this idea that it's not just about the technology, it's about how you train your people, how you get them to look for suspicious goings on, and making sure that your processes back this up. So it is possible to do it, but it really needs a focus from the organisation to make sure that they've got the people, process and technology in place to enable them to operate safely.
Yeah, a really interesting sector for hackers to focus on. They clearly don't watch Sky News because, we talk about nursery fees and the margins they operate under at the moment. They're not awash with cash. So in that respect, it's an interesting target to go for a ransom. And they've been very clear that it's about the money. And, we were touching on it there before, their argument, their sort of moral argument. Well, we've given you what they've called a pen test, so you should pay up for that at least. What is a pen test? And what is this argument they've come up with?
Well, this is victim washing. Sorry, victim shaming. This is an absolute nonsense. So a pen test is where you would get an organisation to test your cybersecurity defences, and it can extend beyond that. So you have physical pen testing where you have someone tries to break in, kind of sort of blag their way through the front door or through security. Pen testing in a cybersecurity context is about testing your systems to the point where they fail. It's a well-established industry. For them to describe what they've done as a pen test and effectively charge the nursery for the benefit of their skills and their expertise is laughable, and it's an absolute disgrace, and they should be ashamed of themselves.
Well, Graham, stay with us because we've got another story from the digital world that I'd be interested to get your thoughts on. This is the government today, set to unveil plans as soon as tomorrow, we understand, for a new digital ID system. This is all in a bid to tackle illegal migration. The Prime Minister is expected to announce this scheme at some point tomorrow, and he believes that the so-called Brit Card will help stop illegal immigrants from finding work. Our political correspondent Maria Aurora has the latest from Westminster.
The government looks set to announce a mandatory ID card system. Now, this would be a digital ID, a Brit card, and it would be mandatory for all adults in the UK. The idea behind it is, first of all, to make it easier for employers and landlords to essentially check someone's immigration status, but also this is about tackling illegal migration. We've had a situation where under Keir Starmer and under a Labour government, small boats crossings are at a record high. And so the government is now having to think about maybe being a bit more creative, a bit more radical about how to reduce small boats crossings. And so digital ID cards have come up. Now, this is because other countries like France, for instance, have often and for many years criticised the UK for having a pull factor for illegal working. And what nations like France say is that because we here in the UK don't have ID cards the way they do in France, for instance, it allows people to work in the kind of the black market, the black economy, as it were, and work illegally more easily. The difficulty is that actually Labour did try to do this once before under Tony Blair. It was unsuccessful. But also, interestingly, in July of 2024, the then Home Secretary Yvette Cooper actually said to journalists, it's not in our manifesto, it's not our approach. Fast forward 14 months, and clearly Keir Starmer has had a change of heart. The difficulty for Keir Starmer in getting this legislation through will be the arguments for civil liberties. There is civil liberties campaigners who say that this is going to create a kind of checkpoint society here in the UK, but also that it will fundamentally change the relationship between the population and the state. And it's not just them. The Lib Dems, the Greens and the Reform UK party have all said that they are absolutely against this.
Well, civil liberty is one concern, but cybersecurity is another. Graham's still with us, Graham Stewart from cybersecurity firm Checkpoint. Graham, you'll be well aware of these plans that the government plan to announce tomorrow. And given what we were just talking about with this chain of nurseries hack, I mean, every UK adult, their personal information, passport details, driving licence, stored on one platform. Can that be done safely?
So the answer is yes. However, what you do, if you think about this, if you increase the amount of information that you're holding in a central space, you're increasing what's called the attack surface. So the opportunity for people to break into it, the opportunity for people to breach it. Now, there's lots of technical ways you can kind of split the information up and have it in different areas. But fundamentally, the cybersecurity on this is absolutely key. There's lots of societies in the world that are almost exclusively digital. So the Estonian government is 99% run on a sort of digital ID card scheme. You've got lots of countries around the world that do this. The difficulty you've got with this is if you'd have talked about this 3 months ago, most people wouldn't really understand. Most people wouldn't be bothered because the cyber attacks were just the preserve of us geeks. And actually what's happened now is this has moved into the mainstream. I'll give you an example of one that went wrong and one of the problems that government has here. The Legal Aid Board was hacked in May. And the biggest news item that day, when it happened, when that news broke, 200,000 people's details were stolen. The biggest news item that day was Gary Lineker leaving Match of the Day. your problem you've got here is that trust is absolutely important and absolutely the keystone of this. People have to trust the system. And so government need to be able to demonstrate that they've got their cybersecurity house in order and that they can be trusted to do this. And there's many things you can do, and there's lots of different technologies you can deploy. But fundamentally, this is based on trust. And I absolutely would like to see government illustrate to industry and also to the public at large how they intend securing this, because the news landscape has changed on this, and people are far more aware. This Nursery hack, the M&S, the Co-op, the airlines at the weekend. This is now front and centre in people's minds, and they absolutely need to get that trust on board, or it just won't work.
Listen, Graham, been really interesting to talk to you. You know, cyber hacking and cyber security, the two stories leading our news agenda this evening. As you said, these stories more and more prevalent, people more aware. I'm sure we will speak again on that note. Graham Stewart there, head of the public sector security at Checkpoint Software Technologies. Really good to talk to you tonight. Thank you. Now, the taxi driver who took the Southport attacker to the dance class where he murdered 3 young girls has been telling an inquiry how he regrets not helping children he saw running from the building. Gary Poland says he thought he heard gunshots and panicked, driving away for his own safety. He didn't call emergency services until 50 minutes after hearing screams at the Heart Space, having picked up another fare and returned home first. Sky's Katie Barnfield has this report.
In the back of a taxi outside the Heart Space, Axel Ruda-Cabana prepares to launch his attack. The driver of that taxi was Gary Poland, questioned today at the Southport inquiry about why he took 50 minutes to call 999 after watching children run for their lives. Gary Poland told the inquiry he saw Ruda-Cabana enter the building and then heard loud noises he thought were gunshots. He said he feared for his life, thinking he would be targeted, and drove away. Counsel to the inquiry, Nicholas Moss-Casey, pointed to dashcam video from Gary Poland's taxi that's too distressing to show, saying, "Do you accept that as you were driving away, children were fleeing? They were alongside your car. You could clearly be seen looking in your rearview mirror and more children were fleeing," to which Gary Poland agreed. At this stage, he didn't call 999 and instead phoned his friend Julian Medlock, who worked on the same street. In a transcript of the call, Gary Poland tells him he thinks people have been shot and says he's lucky it wasn't him. 3 young girls, Alice de Silva Aguiar, Bebe King and Elsie Dot Stankham, died from stab wounds in the attack last year, while 10 others were injured. Nicholas Moss-Casey told Gary Poland their families would want to understand why he waited so long before calling 999, even picking up another fare before he went home and made the call. In his statement to the inquiry, Gary Poland said he should have called the police earlier.
I regret not helping the children. Their screams were harrowing, and I still hear them when I think back to that day. There isn't a day that passes that I don't think about what happened and the what-ifs. I can only say I panicked and fled for my own safety.
Nicholas Moss suggested the reason he took so long to call emergency services was because he was preoccupied with his own lucky escape and not what happened to the girls. Gary Poland replied that if he could change things, he would. He also said if he realised Axel Ruda-Cabana had a knife and not a gun, he would have tackled him instead, saying,
I'd have got out and disarmed him. It's only a knife.
The inquiry will continue to examine the circumstances surrounding the Southport attack, asking how such a devastating incident that destroyed families and shocked a city and a nation was ever able to happen. Katie Barnfield, Sky News at Liverpool Town Hall.
Next tonight, I want to talk about Jaisley Beck. Jaisley was a gunner in the Royal Artillery. She was sexually assaulted by an officer. But when Jaisley reported the incident, rather than taking the matter to the police, the Army recorded the incident as inappropriate behaviour unbecoming of a warrant officer. Jaisley was also harassed by her line manager, who sent her more than 4,600 text messages confessing his love for her. Tragically, Jaisley took her own life in December 2021. Earlier this month, Michael Webber, the officer who sexually assaulted Jaisley, pleaded guilty, and he's now awaiting sentencing. He had recently retired from the army, and for Jaisley's family, there is anger and frustration because he was able to continue his career, only facing action once he'd hung up his uniform. I've been speaking to Jaisley's mum, Leanne, about their continuing fight for answers.
So we knew from after our daughter's passing, we knew that something wasn't right, and we shouted from the rooftops, more needs to be done. So then the army, the military, opened up, it's an investigation, it's a service inquiry. They opened up their own investigation, and what that meant was they had to get statements from those surrounding Jaisley, the person that was on the phone to her, the time that she was in the car. They had to, it was like police gathering evidence, but rather than it being the civilian police, it was the service inquiry panel that led their own investigation, which is in the public domain.
And you felt that enough information was gathered in that for action to be taken at that time?
Yes, absolutely. So within my workplace, if anything was untoward, there's correct policies and procedures in place, disciplinary action, etc., etc. Why has that not happened within the military? Why have, not only has my daughter seen these people in question being promoted after sexually assaulting her, we are, as a family, have experienced this as well. And we've also seen that he has gone through retirement, and then it's come to light that he has pleaded guilty. What we're fighting for as a family is for the service inquiry to be changed, and this was 2023.
And you want to ask big questions of the armed forces as well as to why they had all that information but didn't act upon it.
Why?
How do you go about doing that? What are you as a family doing?
Well, this is the thing. So we have written to the chief, which is Sir Rowley Walker. We have written to him and asked him we have asked him these exact same questions, and he's sent a warm response back to us, however, bypassing all the questions we're asking. So it's how, as a family, do we engage with the military for somebody to answer these questions? And still, 4 years later, they're unanswered.
We know that Jaisley, after reporting the sexual assault, was subjected to sexual harassment from another of her colleagues, a man sending her over 4,500 text messages, writing her a 15-page inappropriate letter. It's a real quirk of the system that the army keeps things behind closed doors and doesn't automatically pass things on to police. You believe that this needs to change? Yes.
It should have always been in place. It should never have been a thing that the army mark its own homework. I'm just, can I use the word, I'm grateful that we were given so much information via our daughter. And she even said, had the complaint system been properly followed, she wholeheartedly believes that action would have been taken and disciplinary measures would have been put in place at the time she was living. Unfortunately, herself has had to witness, or did witness, it's hard to speak of my daughter in the past tense, she had to witness an apology letter followed by Michael Webber was promoted from Battery Sergeant Major to a W01 officer. And that was extremely difficult. That was a kick in the teeth for my daughter. And I wholeheartedly believe that my daughter would still be here if the investigation was carried out correctly.
You want those measures of protections to change and be more robust and, like you said, independent. But the culture of
Yes.
the armed forces, when it comes to women, perhaps harder to change. I mean, it's hard enough to change the procedure, as you've outlined. But in terms of the army as a workplace for women, what did Jaisley tell you about it? Obviously, she had two horrendous experiences. But what did she say about the day-to-day workplace culture as a woman in the armed forces, what her and her female colleagues experienced?
I mean, in all honesty, Jaisley absolutely loved her career. She was an extremely proud soldier. It's just that she was massively failed at the time by her chain of command, and that is what at the time absolutely broke her. And that is the reason why she never followed up with the second person in charge, with the harassment and the stalking. She never spoke up about that because she said she didn't want to be branded as a female troublemaker.
What is the hope now, Leanne, in terms of you talking about Jaisley and pursuing justice for her and what happened to her before she took her own life? Is the hope that other people will have the courage to come forward if they've experienced similar in the armed forces?
I genuinely hope that so many people do come forward, and on the back of what we've gone through, people are speaking up, and that does bring us comfort. What doesn't bring us comfort, and probably not to those still serving, is we are going through all this, and the military still have those in question surrounding my daughter's passing, still working for them. They're still there. So what hope does that give to soldiers in their reporting procedure when they know full well that, again, those involved with my daughter's passing are still currently serving and being promoted too?
Jaisley's mum, Leanne, speaking to me. Well, we did put Leanne's comments to the Ministry of Justice, and this is the response we have had. The Army remain deeply saddened by what happened to Jaisley Louise Beck and are acutely aware of the devastating effect her loss has had on her family. Unacceptable and criminal behaviour has absolutely no place within the military. The Army has accepted the failings identified by the service inquiry and responded to the recommendations to improve service life across its culture, policies and practices. The government has stepped up efforts to bring about crucial reform, bringing into law an Armed Forces Commissioner who will be a truly independent voice for service personnel and their families and have powers to hold the government and single services to account. Still to come here on the UK Tonight. We'll tell you how Ticketmaster have been forced to change the way it advertises concert tickets after their handling of the Oasis reunion tour. And we'll be speaking to one of the all-female grounds crew making history at Twickenham this weekend.
I'm Dominic Waghorn, Sky's International Affairs Editor, covering a world that seems to be unravelling.
It's not his country, it's ours.
Sky News, the full story first, free wherever you get your news. It's half an hour now past the deadline that Hamas issued, and we've now seen a third barrage of rockets coming in.
Ticketmaster has been told to change the way it advertises gig tickets. This is after an investigation into their handling of the Oasis reunion tour. The Competition and Market Authority says the company has agreed to tell fans 24 hours in advance if a dynamic pricing system is being used, while also giving more information about ticket prices during those online queues. Our arts and entertainment correspondent Katie Spencer has more.
Hey, stand by me. It was the ticket that everyone had battled to get their hands on, having endured hours in online queues, while these were the ones who succeeded. Many, of course, missed out, failing in their mission to see the Gallagher brothers finally reunite.
Well, some contemplated destroying their laptops out of frustration at the eye-watering prices. When everyone started comparing who had got what, there was outrage on social media that prices for the same area seemed to vary. Many had suspected algorithmic dynamic pricing had been used, but the Competition and Markets Authority found no evidence of that.
What the investigation did find was that Ticketmaster failed to tell fans that standing tickets were being sold at two different prices, and that prices would jump as soon as the cheap tickets sold out. The so-called platinum tickets were sold at almost 2.5 times the price, without sufficient explanation that they offered no additional benefits.
I never actually got anywhere near to the point where I could put anything in the basket, but the cheap tickets had already gone. We were into the £350 mark, maybe even more, which was a little off-putting, but I was thinking maybe pop on my credit card and pay it off over a period of time. But I think out of the group of friends, I think there was only 2 people who managed to get 2 Wembley tickets, and I think they paid over £500 each.
Ticketmaster has said it welcomes the confirmation that it didn't breach any consumer law over how it handled the Oasis ticket sale, but it has agreed with the CMA that from now on it will tell fans 24 hours in advance if a tiered pricing system is being used. It's also promised to give more information about the costs while fans are in online queues, so it doesn't come as a shock.
We're going to be monitoring compliance with these undertakings, and if we see any sign that they're not being complied with, we will not hesitate to take enforcement action.
As Oasis's reunion tour wraps up at Wembley this weekend, should the rumours be true and the band announce plans to recreate their iconic Nebworth gigs next year, it should at least mean that fans, if they can face putting themselves through the process again, won't be crying their hearts out. Katie Spencer, Sky News.
Gosh, it could all be about to happen again very soon, according to Katie Spencer. Let's bring in Reg Walker now, ticket security expert. Good to see you tonight, Reg. Today's decision, is it a victory for ticket buyers or Ticketmaster?
Oh, it's definitely a victory for Ticketmaster. This is one of a string of disastrous decisions that the CMA has made in relation to ticket companies over many, many years. In effect, what they've done is they've let Ticketmaster off the hook by wagging a finger at them, putting them on the naughty step and allowing them to sign up to an undertaking with no admission of liability and simply voluntary terms to change their practices moving forward, which is ridiculous. And if the CMA thought that they had insufficient powers, the investigation should have been handed over to National Trading Standards for potential prosecution under consumer protection regulations. In the 12-year history of the CMA, I'm unable to find a single company or person that has been convicted or successfully prosecuted by the CMA.
Yeah, the CMA saying Ticketmaster didn't actually break any rules, but may not have been transparent, may have misled fans. So how is this new... go on, I'll let you respond to that first, because I don't think you're buying that.
There's some consumer protection legislation out there, which is if you omit information on the purchase journey, then you commit an offence. It's an omission, and that's Consumer Protection from Unfair Trading Regulations, Consumer Rights Act. Now, the CMA has very little powers under the CRA, should have been given to national trading standards to investigate. So allowing people to sit in a queue for sometimes hours and then changing the prices, moving the goalpost in the middle of that journey, I would suggest there's reason to suspect offences, and it should have been investigated properly by a competent authority.
Well, now fans are going to be kept informed during that long time in that queue. I mean, you know, I was just talking with my production team before Coldplay announcing a tour. Tickets for that will go on sale soon. We know how in demand they are, so I'm sure this kind of thing will be happening. But when you're in that queue, desperate to get your hands on that ticket, you'll see the price going up, because dynamic pricing works as in the more in demand it is, like the more people logging on, the higher that price gets, and that sucks for you if you're at the back of the queue but determined to get to the front. So I guess if fans want to pay that money, they will, won't they, to see their favourite artist? So if they know at the end and they want to wait in that queue, that's on them. Is that fair?
I think there's a social responsibility here from these companies, and that is research shows that 31% of ticket purchasers come from socio-economic bands, D&D, and in plain English, that's the lowest paid and hardest working, who can't afford a week's wages to pay and see their favourite artist or their favourite sports team. And this is why artists do not go out there with eye-watering prices. Ticketmaster is the only company that uses the platinum model, which effectively takes 15 to 20% of the tickets for an event and hikes the price up massively. So you could be sitting next to somebody who's paid a quarter of the price. You're in the same ticket, but platinum, you think by the name, you're getting something special. In fact,
well, you got no benefits, did you? And fans found that out once they clicked buy and then got it, and were just like, oh, it's just like all the others.
Exactly. So the product itself wasn't explained fully, that you're just getting an ordinary seat, you're just paying an eye-watering amount of money for it. You could describe it as effectively touting your own tickets, I think is a fair and accurate statement.
Reg, any sign that this might change? Could it change? I mean, what needs to happen here? A bit of fan power, because we know that this is how artists earn money now. They earn money through tours, not through, you know, record sales or streaming.
Yeah, I think I would urge national trading standards to reinvestigate this. They have extraordinary powers, and I think it does need a second look. I think we need ministerial oversight of the CMA, because it is an unelected quango with no minister responsible for it, and it needs reforming. But we've been promised legislation by the current government in relation to ticketing, and part of that should be an outright ban on dynamic pricing and products such as platinum.
OK, Reg, really good to talk to you. Reg Walker, their ticket security expert, on that news about Ticketmaster today essentially being put on the naughty step, as Reg put it, after that Oasis reunion tour ticket fiasco, I think we can call it. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Still to come here on the UK Tonight, we'll be taking a look inside the new vaccine factory opened by Moderna in Oxfordshire, and how the Trump administration is trying to stop Israel from being banned from international football. Next tonight, an update on a story that we brought you last night and those calls for Israel to be banned from international sport. Sky News understands the Trump administration is working to prevent FIFA from banning Israel from football ahead of the 2026 World Cup. Well, our sports correspondent Rob Harris is right across this story. Rob, tell me the details.
Well, I can reveal that at the top levels of UEFA, they are now exploring banning Israel from international football. They have been meeting. It's understood that the majority of football associations across Europe and indeed members of the executive committee are moving towards backing that ban, which would be a very notable sporting sanction against Israel. But that would be at UEFA. What will FIFA do? Well, the World Cup next year is in the United States largely. Israel is still in contention to qualify for that. And it's not pleasing the Trump administration. I've uncovered from there how they will fight any ban on Israel. The State Department, exclusively a spokesperson, telling me that we will absolutely work to fully stop any attempt to ban Israel's national soccer team from the World Cup. So that could be pitching FIFA against the US government. And there's such a close relationship between the FIFA president, Gianni Infantino, and Donald Trump. What's prompted so much of these calls? It is a UN Commission for Inquiry saying that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. Israel does deny that, but certainly, particularly on the Palestinian side, they are concerned about how many athletes have died in the war, indeed how many sports facilities have been destroyed. Israel, of course, responding 2 years on from the Hamas attacks on Israel.
Rob, thank you. Rob Harris with the latest on that story. We'll follow it closely. Thank you. An American vaccine company has opened a major manufacturing plant in the UK. Moderna, the firm that was one of the fastest to develop the COVID vaccine, is investing £1 billion in Britain at a time of increasing anti-vaccine rhetoric back home. Our science and technology editor, Tom Clark, has been given an exclusive tour of this new facility.
This brand new factory is the UK's first and only RNA vaccine production line. Part of a £1 billion investment by American firm Moderna, very welcome in the UK, as back home their president becomes outwardly hostile to vaccines.
They pump so much stuff into those beautiful little babies, it's a disgrace. I don't see it. I think it's very bad. They're pumping, it looks like they're pumping into a horse.
If we can prevent those people...
I asked Moderna's CEO if he's worried.
Yes, I do worry about it, because if you look at it, it's kind of the consequence of what happened with the pandemic, which is, if you think about it, the world was stopped. It was terrible. What saved all of us was vaccination.
Do you think the Trump administration is reminding you of that?
I think so. And again, President Trump has been talking very clearly about how Operation Warp Speed was an amazing impact.
Though President Trump has showered himself in praise for Operation Warp Speed, his COVID response effort,
hello, everyone.
His new administration has become openly anti-vaccine, especially towards RNA jabs, even stripping Moderna of $700 million in research funding. Their decision to invest in the UK may have been a smart one.
If there is less appetite by governments around the world, including in the US, to use vaccine, we might invest less in vaccine. We have to invest where there is a demand for our products.
These steel bioreactors can produce 100 million doses of mRNA vaccine against diseases like COVID, flu, and new cancer jabs being trialled in the NHS. Everything is behind glass to ensure the biological messages encoded in mRNA are error-free and entirely sterile. The most advanced vaccine technology the UK desperately wanted.
The UK's vaccine rollout has hit its first significant hit.
Supply issues during the pandemic revealed a woeful lack of vaccine manufacturing capability in the UK. This plant is also a strategic asset designed so that in times of a pandemic, it can shift production to produce up to 250 million doses of RNA vaccine against whatever virus nature decides to throw at us. For a man who led our pandemic response, now a minister, it's a nice thing to have.
Very relieved. The vaccine that, if you like, is a dial-up vaccine, one that you can rapidly adapt to a new infection should it occur. So I think it's great that we've got this domestic, onshored capability.
At a time when 4 big drug firms have pulled investment from the UK, it's no surprise 2 ministers came to celebrate the opening of this one. A deal struck long before they were in power, but
how sharp are these scissors?
Given the investment environment here and anti-vaccine fever across the Atlantic, they'll be relieved this cutting-edge plant is opening at all. Tom Clark, Sky News.
Still to come here on the UK Tonight, we'll be hearing from one of the ground staff making history at the Rugby World Cup final this weekend. And the waiting almost over for Rory McIlroy and Team Europe on the eve of the Ryder Cup.
What might happen if Russia attacked the UK?
This is clearly an enormous show of force. It is definitely out of the ordinary.
We ran a war game with former ministers back in the hot seat.
Ben Wallace.
Amber Rudd.
Jack Straw.
It's the kind of war game that's genuinely tested inside government.
The Russians are signalling that there may be an attack.
Russia knows our weaknesses, but do you? I'm Deborah Haynes. From Sky News and Tortoise, this is The War Game. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Mr. Trump, James Matthews from Sky News.
Hey, James.
I'm James Matthews, and I'm Sky's US correspondent, based here in Washington, D.C. Mr. President, what will you say next to Benjamin Netanyahu? In June 2009, did you stay at the apartment in Manhattan of Jeffrey Epstein?
I'm not answering any questions about him.
I'm Martha Kellner and I'm Sky's US correspondent. I've interviewed some of America's most recognisable politicians. Should the Defence Secretary and the Vice...
Wait, what country are you
from? The UK.
Okay, we don't give a crap about your opinion and your reporting.
Mr Walker, you're anti-abortion, but 2 women say that you paid for their abortions. Are you a hypocrite, sir?
Connor, what did you say to the President? What did you say?
We had a great meeting. He was a great man.
I'm David Blevins, one of Sky's US correspondents, based in Washington, D.C.
David Blevins from Sky News. Fire chiefs say that they're really stretched to the limit and running out of water. What have you got to say to that?
I've witnessed the remarkable passion for politics here.
Why only in America? Why is this American exceptionalism? I just want to understand why you do not think that guns are the problem.
Why is this just an American problem?
The anger too, and the division.
Where are you from? From Sky News, UK. Yeah. Back up.
Mr. Navarro,
I'm allowed to ask questions, aren't I?
I'm Mark Stone and I'm Sky's US correspondent based here in Washington, D.C.
Vladimir Putin calls you outstanding, Mr. Musk. Has your ego and ignorance, sir, cost Ukrainian lives?
David Cameron needs to worry about his own country, and frankly, he can kiss my ass.
Mr. Patel, did you endanger public safety when you said the killer was in custody?
Free wherever you get your news.
What words do you have for Harry Dunn's family today?
Have a nice day.
Do you fear a fourth indictment? Is it a draw?
Hello, welcome back. Coming up, I speak to one of the ground staff making history at Twickenham this weekend. But first, Jessica has all the day's sports news for you.
Staying connected is vital for business. Sky Business sponsors this report.
Patrick, let's go back to the start of your time here at Genoa. You took over in mid-season. It's the first time you'd done that as a coach. Talk to us about the journey that you've had and the pride at the achievement of securing safety this season in Serie A.
It was a big challenge. It was a big task. And of course, I take time to make a decision because knowing the difficulties to go to a club in a mid-season with a huge challenges on the field because the result wasn't the best. Challenges with injuries because the group of players had a couple of injuries and important players, and of course huge challenges because of the stability of the club outside of the field. So when you put all together, it was a big one. But I strongly believed that I had the capacity and the quality to make this football club remaining in Serie A. There is a strength around this football club. And of course, what as well was a massive part of the decision was the fan base, the atmosphere in the stadium. So when I analyzed the situation and looking at the potential of the club, I think everything's there for me to do a good job.
How much have you drawn on the experiences from the clubs you've already managed?
I think in every club that I've been, I had a huge reflection on myself as a coach, as a manager, and today I'm a different coach, different manager, because those experiences make me reflecting on myself about what to do to improve myself, to challenge myself, and to be better. And I'm a different manager today than I was when I started with City Under 21, when I started with...
Sky Business sponsors this report.
Now, the stage is set for a huge occasion at Twickenham this weekend. It is the final of the Women's Rugby World Cup, England taking on Canada. But before the two teams even set foot on the field, history will have been made with an all-female grounds crew preparing the pitch for that big game. And we can speak to one of them now. I'm joined in the studio by Jess Jackson, who's also head of grounds at Wellington College, but has been brought in for this historic occasion. There's 15 of you coming from places like Wimbledon, Wembley, Lords, the Belfry, yourself, Wellington College. Talk to me about the history before the historic final, if you like.
As in
like what it's like to be part of an all-female team making history before this game even kicks off. It's quite special, right?
Absolutely fantastic. We've got women coming from many different areas, from a range of levels, and it's really exciting to have everyone together. It's nice to be able to celebrate the women that are in the industry.
Yeah. Very much so. So you all sort of got together yesterday, and today was your sort of first full day looking after the pitch at Twickenham ahead of the final. How's it looking, and how do you operate? What are you looking for, and what are you doing?
Today we had a walk around the pitch with Jim, the head there. Yeah. He was brilliant. Went into some scientific stuff, also some operational bits. It was really interesting, and then we got to go at actually getting hands-on mowing and getting the pitch ready. Yeah, so you talk about mowing. What else is involved? Is it just sort of like just maintaining it because, you know, the weather hopefully should be okay ahead of Saturday? I'm sure that plays a factor, right? Yeah, sure. So for us, because we've come in slightly later, it's sort of more maintenance bit. We're mainly mowing, presentational, marking out
with pairs of scissors. That's what they do at Wimbledon, isn't it?
Yeah. So out there, lots of rotary mowers, cylinder mowers. But the team would have been doing so much prep work. They would have been spiking the pitch, and there's weeks that go into preparing a match pitch.
Well, there you all are, the 15 assembled. You're essentially coming in and putting the cherry on top of the cake ahead of this final between England and Canada. And just talk to me how you got into groundskeeping as a career, because there's relatively low numbers of women in ground staff throughout, you know, the sporting industry, and yourself at Wellington College, because they've got professional level sort of grounds there, of which, you know, you've contributed to. But how did you get into it? What made you want to do it?
I began working at Kent Cricket at their outground. They needed some summer staff, so I went and helped, and at the end of the summer, they were like, "Would like you to stay on." Fantastic. So I did that for 2 years and became head of grounds there, and then moved on to Wellington College and have worked my way up to head grounds person at Wellington.
Yeah, and overlooking a team there of ground staff and the like. And in terms of recruitment, I hear it's difficult. What would you say to young women and girls watching who may not have considered this as a career? Because I know that you want to bring people in.
That's why we're doing it. Currently, 10% of ground staff is female, and there's a lot of work that needs to be done to help build that up. And that's why we're doing this, is so that we can be seen visually and we can inspire women and girls to join. Yeah. There's a range of sports and levels to go into. We just want to see more.
Yeah, very much so. And it's women supporting other women, you know, lifting the teams up with your work ahead of this incredible final on Saturday at Twickenham. Jess, thank you so much for coming in to see us, and congratulations. As I said, history made before the games even kicked off. So thank you for coming just down the road from Twickenham to talk to us about it. Really good to meet you.
Thank you.
And enjoy the game on Saturday. Will you be there?
I'll be there.
Oh, yeah, watching the action as well as every blade of grass. Thank you, Jess. Jess Jackson there, Head of Grounds at Wellington College. Now, time for the weather. Well, we will see a change in the weather for the weekend. Jess, you might want to put your hands over your ears. Atlantic rain is bringing wet and windy conditions, mostly for the north of the country, though. However, high pressure will be the greater influence next week. For now, though, largely fine end to today with clear skies. It's going to be windy in the far west and the northwest, breezy in the southeast. Elsewhere, winds will be light, temperatures falling quickly after dark. Some central areas will see a touch of frost forming by morning, along with some patchy mist and fog. It's going to be milder in the southeast, where low cloud will spread across East Anglia and the southeast. Early mist and fog will clear soon after sunrise, with Island Wales and the southwest seeing another fine dry day with good sunny spells. Advancing cloud in the southeast will reach northern England and the Midlands. That's all from the UK Tonight. We will return on Monday at 8 o'clock. Yalda Hakim is up next.